Okay, can everyone hear me? Sounds good. Okay, it's good to see everybody again. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for being here. As you just heard, I'm going to be talking a little bit about immigration law. Nothing too crazy, but I know there's a lot of concern now with our new administration. How are the rules changing? What are things we can do? So I want to begin with what steps we can take to make ourselves safer and to prepare in case the worst happens. So first, an emergency plan. This is something I'm sure you all have had in the back of your minds, and maybe you have an idea of the emergency plan you want to use as your family, but you haven't put it down on paper yet, or you haven't made a formal, like step 1, step 2, step 3. So what I want to talk to you today is about how important it is to actually do that. The family plan is the way that whoever is in charge of your family, if you are not there, is going to know what to do. For example, if you're detained by ICE, or if you're deported, or if you're just not there and they're not aware of what happened. The way we like to encourage people to do it is to set up a power of attorney. This is a document. Excuse me, I just want to step away for a second. This is a legal document that gives somebody else the authority to manage your home. And it's not just doing your groceries and taking care of your house, but also to take legal decisions for you, to pay your rent, to enter or get out of a lease for you, to sell your car, to manage your bank accounts. Those are all property powers of attorney. We also have powers of attorney that relate to children. Who makes the medical decisions for the children? Who makes the educational decisions? Who picks them up after school? Things like this. A power of attorney is a document that allows you to say who is going to be in charge of that and what are their specific authorities that you are giving to them. So in our office, we have been doing power of attorney workshops. We encourage everyone to come out to these because they are very helpful in setting up your family plan. We have a packet, just like a pack of documents, that gives you questions that you can think about and a place to write down the answers. You put that together with all of your important documents in your house, and your power of attorney knows exactly where to look, and they have all of the information they need. This does not have to be one of our packets, and it does not have to be one of our powers of attorney. You can write out a list of things that are important. What is the name of the child's doctor? What is the address of the school? Information that is basic and important for somebody to know in order to take care of your home and your children. You put this document together with all of your other important documents. This can be birth certificates, marriage certificates, any immigration documents you have, if you've been to immigration court, your passport, your children's passports, all of these identifying documents should be all together in a safe place in the home. Now this plan is sensitive, obviously, because you don't want to bring a lot of attention to your immigration status, and I understand that. But if you can find a trusted friend of the family, or a trusted member of the community, or a trusted person who works at your child's school, for example, it is good for somebody to know what your plan is. This is because if something happens and you're not able to make this known to a third party. So for example, if you are taken away by ICE and you don't have time to call your child's teacher or something, they have to know who's going to be picking up the children, and they have to know that this is all with your blessing and with your permission. So we encourage people to speak to trusted members of the community, trusted friends, and let them know what is going on. You also have to update the list for children pickup lists, for example. Who is permitted to pick up children from school or from daycare? I mean, again, this is something sensitive. People don't really want to make their situation known, but you want to make sure that whoever it is that you give this permission to, everyone else knows about this permission as well. Before we even get to giving responsibilities away, it is also very important that you have conversations with the person you want to give authority to. So let's say you want to give your sister the authority to take care of your family if you can't do it, or the authority to access your property if you can't do it. Hi. You want to be able to discuss with your sister in great detail. This is how I like the house run. This is where I spend my money. This is what I do not want the children to do. These are the permissions that I do want you to have. And more importantly, you have to ask them, are you okay with this? You know, are you okay to accept this responsibility? Is this something you feel you can handle? That's a very important conversation you need to have, and you also need to have within your family. Are you okay with me giving my sister the authority to take care of these things? Everyone has to be aware. And the reason we say that is because if you do a power of attorney, the person to whom you give the power, right, that person can reject it. They don't have an obligation to accept the authority that you give them. So you want to pick someone who knows how you run your house, who is comfortable with taking on that authority, and who has told you that they will do it. And also you should consider when you're deciding to whom you will give this authority, is this someone that is likely to take advantage of the permission that I give them? Or is this someone who will respect my wishes, someone who understands how I want things done in my house? Another thing we try to tell people to be aware of when they're choosing the person who will receive the power of attorney is, what is their immigration status? Now, it doesn't have to be that your power of attorney has citizenship, but for example, let's say you all live in the same apartment. ICE knocks on your door. They take you and they take your sister because she happens to be there. If she's a citizen, she'll be fine. They'll release her. If she's not a citizen, and she was your power of attorney, then who is left to assume that responsibility? Now, you can always put an alternative agent. So if your first person doesn't work out, you can have someone else to fill that role. But I think as a first step, it's good to identify who probably has a more stable situation, who will be better able to handle that authority. The other thing we like to tell people, it's always anybody who is over 18 that has permission to be legally a power of attorney. It can be anyone over the age of 18. And if it's between someone who is a citizen but is not that close to you, and someone who's not a citizen but is close to you or isn't close to you, you have to go with your gut. There's not like a hard and fast rule. You have to ask yourself, what is more important to me? And what is more important to my family? This is another reason we really encourage you all to have these conversations. Ma'am, I saw you had a question. Can you ask that again? I couldn't hear you.
Like if people has just green card.
Okay.
You said if they come and you are not citizen and they take you or they take your sister.
Mm-hmm.
Is people on just green card, they are in risk too?
The question is whether people who have a green card are also at risk, or if it's just people who don't have citizenship. So I want to clarify, thank you for bringing that up. If you have a green card, you're a legal permanent resident, so you're fine. If you are undocumented, those are the people who are probably at the most risk. And when I say undocumented, you crossed the border, or you came in without any contact with immigration, so they probably don't know you're here, or you have been to immigration court and the matter has not yet been resolved. Or it could be that you've been to immigration court, they put an order for your removal and you have stayed. Any of those factors could mean that you're an undocumented individual in this country. And in that case, you're probably at a higher risk for being taken. But if you have a green card, you're fine. Nothing to worry about there. These are still things that we want to make sure the community is aware of, though, just because even if you yourself are good to go, your neighbor might need to know what to do, or a family member. You just never know who in your community might need this extra help. So we want to make sure this information gets out there far and wide to everybody who might use it. Again, emergency plans are everything. And I do mean like a written plan so that whoever is in charge of your home knows exactly where to look for everything they need. The medical records, the identifying documents. And it doesn't just have to be official documents, anything that is going to be helpful to somebody. You could have a list of your kids' favorite foods or something. Anything to make a transition a little bit more comfortable. A power of attorney doesn't have to be a form like the one that we use. It just has to be something that grants authority, has your signature, and is notarized. So in our office, we've been doing workshops to fill in these documents, and at our workshops, we have notaries available, and they go ahead and stamp your document right there. You come in with questions, and you leave with a power of attorney. So our office is actually doing another one of these events. Let's see, it's this Thursday. However, this is for people who have sort of started the process but didn't finish for whatever reason. They had extra questions or they needed to gather additional documents. If you haven't already started the process of thinking about your power of attorney, we would encourage you to attend one of the full-length sessions because the first hour answers a lot of questions. And it's not only about how does a power of attorney work, but it also explains a little more about what your rights are if ICE comes knocking on your door. So it's very informative and very helpful. So unfortunately, I couldn't print out flyers, but I'm going to send them to Alejandra and she can distribute them to give you all an idea of what are the upcoming dates. But I will tell you this Saturday, I'm checking my phone because I have it written here. This Saturday, there's a POA workshop at Good Shepherd Catholic Church in Alexandria from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. So I'm going to send this flyer out this afternoon, and you can see it. But for right now, if you wanted to make plans, you could mark that down. So one of the questions I had just brought up was, how does the power of attorney work? So it begins when you say it begins. When you fill out the document, you can write down the condition that you want to give. So if X happens, then this person may take over my responsibilities. When I say X, that could be anything you say. When the sun rises, you know, this authority is granted, or, you know, next Tuesday, this authority is granted. But in this case, and for the immigration concerns that we've been addressing, we've been putting down this authority begins if I am detained or if I'm deported. If it has to do with children, we've been saying this authority begins if I and my partner are detained or deported. One thing I want to make clear, because a lot of people don't know this right away, is that if you are detained or deported and your husband is still here with the children, then automatically he already has control over the children. You do not have to do a power of attorney that gives authority to your husband because he already has it. That's why we always try to put down if both I and my partner are deported or detained, because that means if both parents are gone, then another person has authority over the child. So that's something to think about. In any event, you pick the condition that causes the power of attorney to begin. You also pick the condition that you want it to end. And if you don't pick a condition, the power of attorney ends if the principal passes away. And the person who signs the document is the principal, so you would be the principal. If you pass away, then the power of attorney ends. Now, another note for children, this is not the same thing as custody. So if you fill out a power of attorney form and you say, I want my brother to have control over the children, over the decisions for my children's education, over medical decisions, over the care of my children generally, right? This is not the same thing as saying that my brother has permanent custody of the children. It's temporary. It only gives you a period of time to set up a better plan. So, for example, if you give your brother authority over your children, and in that same document you give him authority to make travel arrangements for the children, maybe you want them to come to you in whatever country you end up in, that's something that they can do. But you cannot say, I want my brother to be in charge of the children for the rest of their lives. However, if you have kind of older children, maybe 17 years old, 16 or 17, it's probably enough because once they reach 18, they'll be legally adults anyway. If they're little children, your power of attorney really only buys time to set up a more permanent plan. Let's see. One thing that a lot of people are doing for property, control of property, they've been giving access to their bank accounts because sometimes the caretaker of the children will need the extra money. Other couples I have seen prefer to control how the money goes out, right? They prefer to keep access to the bank account for themselves and to distribute every month whatever amount they think is appropriate. So that's something that you can consider as well. I mentioned earlier authority over buying and selling the houses and cars. That's something you might think about as well. And generally, any property you have, if there are special concerns, like my favorite book, this person has control of my favorite book. You can do that, something like that if you would like. So that is generally family preparedness. It's making sure all the information is available to your power of attorney. It's making sure that the document is known, not only to the power of attorney, but also to third parties, like the principal of the school, for example. And it's making sure that members of your family have had these conversations together and that everyone knows and understands and accepts the plan. From there, you might choose to prepare your children differently if they're young. You might choose to talk to them about it, or you might think it's better not to. And those are family decisions, how you want to make them ready in case something does happen. Like if you tell your son, oh, for a while I think your aunt might be taking care of you. Everything will be fine. Things like that. That's all very personal. And you should do that as you see appropriate. Now, if you have specific legal questions regarding your immigration case, so for example, if you have a case right now in court, or if you're worried that you might have one and you just want to talk about your situation, we are offering free immigration clinics where attorneys will meet with you one-on-one for maybe 20 to 30 minutes. They'll discuss your particular circumstances, and we can talk about what relief might be available or what might be the best strategy going forward. So I do have flyers for that, thankfully. You can all come up and get one if you'd like. The next one we have is this Saturday the 29th from 1 to 4 at Claremont Elementary School, so not too far. It's right here in Arlington. And the next one after that will be on Saturday, May 13th at Mount Vernon Woods Elementary School, and that's in Alexandria, so also not too far. And that's if you have specific legal questions. If I had to pick the one piece of advice that I think is the very most important, is just to make sure that you have these conversations with your family. After you discuss with them what you think would be a good plan, and if after you've decided who you think should be in charge, you are welcome to call our office and we can set up an appointment to do a power of attorney, or you can go to one of our workshops, which personally I think those are the most productive, just because you're surrounded with a bunch of people who have the same questions as you. You all see the same presentation about what your rights are. It's much more detailed, and you can ask your questions, because you know if you have a question, probably everyone else in the room has the same question. And of course, at our workshops, we have attorneys there available to answer questions right on the spot. So like I said, you come in with questions and you leave with the power of attorney. But of course, you are welcome to call our office. Our phone number is here on the flyer. Let us know if you have particular questions about your case, or if you would like to fill in a power of attorney sheet. Now, I've talked a lot about the power of attorney just because I think it is the most convenient tool in your toolbox right now. It is a legal document. It grants authority within the state of Virginia, and it allows somebody else formally to make decisions for you. But it's not the only way to do it. I mentioned this briefly before, but I'll say it again. If you, within your family or within your community, have a plan and you know what you want to do, that's fine too. If you just have all of your important documents in one place and somebody knows where to get it, that is sufficient. It may or may not have legal authority, meaning if your friend that you've given, you've trusted to handle your issues, if your friend goes to the bank to try and take from your account, they might not be able to do that. But for example, if it's just a question of who is running the house, maybe that'll be sufficient. It depends on what you consider to be the best. Of course, you're more than welcome to come up with questions. Does anyone have any questions at this point about the power of attorney, about setting up an emergency plan? Anybody? Are we all pretty comfortable with the plan? Okay. Of course, you can always call our office if you don't want to ask anything right now, and I'll stick around for a few more minutes here. So just let me know if anything comes up. I did not bring my business cards with me. I apologize for that. But if anybody would like to write it down, I'm happy to give you my phone number and my email address. So that is 703 778 3450. Yes. That's 703 703, yes. 778 3450. What was that? My name is Nady Peralta. It's a weird one. N-A-D-Y. Actually, I believe we met at the last event, so good to see you again. And my last name is Peralta. That's P-E-R-A-L-T-A. And you are always welcome to call with questions or concerns. I will stick around, like I said, a few more minutes. Let me know if you have any questions about your immigration case, your family preparedness, any steps you could take. So and I just want to make sure everybody heard. The question is, does she have to fill out a form, a particular power of attorney document, or can you write out your own power of attorney and just have it notarized at a bank or wherever you can find a notary, and will that be valid? The answer is, it will be valid if you write out your own. That's fine. Of course, to have it notarized, you have to sign it in front of the notary, so just don't sign it until you're in front of a notary. But yes, a handwritten document is sufficient. I think really the main draw of doing the actual document, the power of attorney, for example, that we have, but I know other offices have them as well, is that you can be pretty sure that they've covered all the bases. So when does the power of attorney start? When does it end? What are the authorities? It can be tricky to think of all the situations that you want to give authority for. So for example, there is a section of our power of attorney form that says educational decisions, but it includes a bunch of different kinds of educational decisions. So the main draw of using a form that already exists is that it probably covers more bases. But if you have a general idea of what you want and you prefer to write it out, you can do that, and it is legally binding. One thing I should mention, you should keep the original form, the original that is notarized, along with your important documents in your home. You may want to give it to the power of attorney, the person that is going to be your power of attorney, but the risk with that is that it's harder to cancel. So if you decide, you know, now I'm thinking about it, maybe my sister's not the best person. Maybe we'll do my brother instead. There's a document you can fill out to cancel the power of attorney, and you just rip the original. And then you put a new one that gives your brother the authority. But if you've already given the original to somebody, if they try to use it, a third party, like a bank, will not know that you have canceled that authority. So it's better to keep the original in your home with all of your important documents, and that way, if a time comes when the person who has authority needs to reach that document, it's with all the other documents they need to reach. It's with the passports, with the court documents, the birth certificates, the tax records, everything is together. And one last thing I think I should mention, sort of related, but a little free advice, never hurt anybody. If you are detained by ICE and you get your one phone call, I want to make sure everybody knows, you should call a family member or your power of attorney. You should call that person. The risk with calling your immigration attorney directly is that you go to voicemail, right? And they get it hours later and they try to call you back, but you're not at your home and they can't reach you. If you call your power of attorney, the person to whom you've given this authority, you let them know what has happened, then they are able to make these calls to the immigration attorney for you, and they can deal with the back and forth, and it's just much easier to do it that way. So you should, with all of your important documents, include the phone number of at least 2 or 3 immigration attorneys, so that your person who has power of attorney knows exactly who to call. And the other thing I want to mention with that phone call you get, if you're detained, you should keep it very short. You should say, I've been detained, I'm okay, please call my attorney. This is it, because as you all know, everything you say can and will be used against you. So you don't want to go into detail, you don't want to tell a story, just those 3 things. I've been detained, I'm okay, please call my attorney. Okay, so we want to talk a little bit about what happens when ICE knocks on your door, and I'm more than happy to do that. So they're going to ask you, like, what is your name? Do you have papers? Present me with your papers. You do not have an obligation to answer. You don't. You have a right to remain silent. The only thing is you have to tell them that you're using that right. So if ICE knocks on the door and they say, I'm looking for, like, John Doe, you say, I have the right to remain silent. I'm not going to speak to you. If they ask you, do you have papers? Can you show me your papers? What do you say? I have the right to remain silent. I'm not going to answer that question. That's the only thing you have to say. You don't have to go into any detail. You don't have to explain yourself. Nothing. And the reason that we tell people to do it this way is because if they say, will you show me your papers? Or if they say, are you legal? They've put you in a trap, right? You can say, no, I'm not legal, and they take you away. Or you can try to find papers or lie about what papers you do have, and then you're in trouble for lying to a federal official. The only correct answer when you are asked any question is that you have the right to remain silent, and you're going to use that right. Now, this doesn't mean that ICE is going to walk away, right? They're not going to just turn around and say, well, I'm sorry about that. Have a nice day. But if they insist, you insist as well. I have the right to remain silent. I'm not going to say anything. And eventually, they have to leave because they don't have any reason to stick around. We have these cards. Alejandra had mentioned some cards that are going around that they say, I have the right to remain silent. I'm not going to say anything to you. These are handy, especially for non-English speakers, just because they make it very clear the reason that you're not opening the door or the reason that you're not responding to any questions. Excuse me. So we have these cards going around that allow you to communicate that same message to ICE. Someone had asked me in the past if you're allowed to record, and now that I've thought about it, you are allowed to record if you're interested in doing that. So for example, if someone records you giving this card out, that is valid, but the best thing to do is just to say, if you can, to say, I have the right to remain silent, and I am not going to answer that question. The question is, if you are here legally, do you have to or should you be carrying around your I-20 document? The answer is you don't have to carry it around, and the reason I say that is because, again, you don't have to answer ICE if they ask you anything. But of course, if you do have your document and they ask you for it and you would like to present it to them, you can do that as well. One concern I would have is that it may open the door to further questions. And I think that if I were in that position, I would probably want to end my interaction with ICE as quickly as possible. So if it were me, I wouldn't give them anything, and I would simply say, I have the right to remain silent, I'm not going to respond. But if you have it, you can present it, you're allowed to. You have no obligation to do that.
Can they still do anything if you have it?
The question is, can they still do anything if you have it? No, they can't. But for example, let's say you're in your apartment and you have your I-20 and your residence is all stable and figured out, but you live with your mother and maybe her situation is not as stable. Maybe her residence is not figured out. She might be here undocumented. If they knock on the door and you open it to give them the I-20, they can still take away your mom, for example. There is a danger if you are together with people who are undocumented, because we have seen what is called a collateral arrest. That means ICE is looking for one person, and while they're there, they fill up the van with some other folks too. I think the best strategy is to avoid that situation altogether by not opening the door. You don't have an obligation to open the door. Not opening the door and not answering any questions. Eventually, they have to leave. They can't just stay there and wait if they have no reason to believe that somebody undocumented is not in there. If you are undocumented and they come and knock on your door, the best advice I think I can give is to step outside of the house and close the door behind you. When you open the door, it could be taken as consent. Now, there's rules governing the way ICE can take people away, and one of the rules says they have to have consent if they enter a home. And doesn't have to be, yes, welcome. Opening the door is enough to show consent. So the danger with opening the door to ICE and handing them papers or opening the door and having a conversation is that they take that to mean they can walk in, take any person that they think might be undocumented or ruffle through your papers. And the best strategy is to avoid that altogether. So you say you have the right to remain silent and you talk through the door. If you know that they are looking for you in particular, and if it's true that you are undocumented, the best way to protect the people who are inside of the house is to be the one to step outside and to shut the door behind you. It's a very difficult moment, and it's a difficult decision to make, but it is the safest for everyone in the home because they take you away, but they have no reason to keep looking for anybody else. That's if they have a warrant with your name on it. If they don't have a warrant, you should always ask if they have one, because if they don't, they have no right to be there. You say you have the right to remain silent, and eventually they have to leave. If they do have a warrant, ask them to slide it under the door. If there's not a space under the door, I've been telling people, open it with your foot there, right, so that they can't push it, just that it's clear that you're not welcoming them into your home. And then you grab the warrant, shut the door again, look at the warrant. So when you look at a warrant, there's a couple things you're looking for. First, check the name. If there's no one there with that name, you slide it back under the door. You say, I'm sorry, that person doesn't live here. Check the address. If the address is incorrect, you slide it under the door and you say, I'm sorry, this is the wrong house. You don't need to be here. And you check for a judge's signature. If there is no signature on the signature line, it's not a valid warrant. You slide it back under the door and you say, this is not a good warrant. There's no signature on this. If all of those elements are there, that's when you should step out if your name is the one on the warrant. Okay, so the question is, if the police catch you when you're driving and you make a mistake, what do you do? Okay, so there's a couple of things there that I want to make clear. First of all, the local police is not the same thing as ICE. And it's hard to tell the difference because, you know, they just look like a guy in uniform. But if you know for a fact that you're talking to the local police, you have to know also that it's not the same thing as ICE. They're not here to take you away. But there is a danger that if you find yourself in jail, you could get in trouble with ICE. Because, as you know, ICE is there in the jail. They're ready to take someone away if they know they've been undocumented once your information is in the system. So the very best advice I can give is to just try as much as possible to adhere to the law. Now, you mentioned driving. I haven't seen too much of this problem, but, you know, don't drive if you've been drinking. Try not to speed. It's not worth it to get there 2 minutes early if you get caught up with the police. If you don't have a driver's license, ride with a friend or take the bus if that's possible. Just try to stay on the right side of the law and don't give anyone a reason to stop you. If you have been stopped by the police, like I said, this is not ICE, so you do have the right to remain silent, and you should exercise that right, but don't run away, right? That does not help anything. It doesn't look good. If the police stop you to ask you questions and you tear off in the other direction, they're going to take off after you. So to answer your question directly, what if the police stop you, for example, if you're driving? Unfortunately, there's not much more advice than I can give other than try not to bring a situation that lets that happen. Okay, so the question is, if you have asylum or if you're in the process of getting asylum and you have a notification to appear in court, do you have an attorney? You said for the... to attend the hearing and the individual. Okay, so immigration court is a little bit different from criminal court. In criminal court, it's like what we see on TV, that an attorney is appointed to you. But for immigration court, you have to find an attorney, and you should. As soon as you know you have a case, as soon as you've been detained, or if you get in any kind of trouble with the police, you should find an immigration attorney if that's a concern. Just because, like I said, the court will not give you one. And even if it's an individual hearing, even if it's something where you don't have to appear before a jury or a judge, you should have an immigration attorney just to walk you through the process. Immigration, as you all know, is very complicated, very costly, and it's just not worth it to incur any costs you don't have to, or to take the long way around to get to the solution you want. Absolutely, you should get an attorney if you know you have to be in court. And another thing I would say is that if you know your immigration status is a concern, it wouldn't hurt to get in touch with an attorney now, even if you don't have an immediate case open, just to see who you can talk to about your situation and what relief might be available to you. A lot of people qualify for a visa and they don't know that, and then they get into trouble with ICE, and they're not able to take advantage of that. So I would recommend that everyone get in touch with an immigration attorney as soon as they can and just discuss their situation and see what their options are. So I'll remind you again, that's why we have the free immigration clinics that are happening on this Saturday and then on Saturday, May 13th in Arlington and Alexandria. These are clinics where you get to have a conversation about your situation. But this doesn't mean that at the end of that day, you will have an immigration attorney who will represent you through the whole process. This is just free advice. But I do think that if possible, you should get in touch with someone who will take your case if there is a case, or who will give you advice if that's all you need. It is useful, though, to discuss your situation because sometimes you don't actually have a case. So sometimes you have completed your immigration process and you just want to make sure, or you just have a couple of questions, and it's still good to have those answered by an attorney. And I want to clarify that our law firm is not immigration law. It's just that we deal with a large immigrant population. So we have to work within immigration law a little bit sometimes to get to the results we need in other cases, but what we do is not the same thing as immigration law. We won't go to court and see you through, for example, an asylum case. So you have to find someone who will do that, who's specifically for immigration. And at these clinics, we always give out referrals. So if you are kind of overwhelmed and you don't know where to go, we give you some phone numbers to call. We try to put you in touch with people who can take those cases. Yes, ma'am, I saw your hand up. The question is whether our clinics that I've been talking about are free of charge, and yes, they are. So our services are also free. We do housing, consumer, and employment cases, largely for immigrants, and those are free. And the clinics that we're offering, the power of attorney clinics I've been talking about, as well as the immigration clinics that are coming up this weekend on May 13th, those are all free. Anyone can show up, you know, even if you don't live there, it's not just for one community. Feel free to show up and ask your questions. Okay. Alejandra, was there anything else you think I should cover? Are we good? Okay. Well, like I said, I'll stick around for a few more minutes, so please feel free to stand up and reach me. I gave my number, but I'm happy to give it again, and I have some flyers for some future events coming up. Please let me know if I can help you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for the useful information, Nady. I hope that each of you were able to find the information useful. And don't forget the dates. There are flyers up at the front about these free legal clinics, okay? And without further ado, we are going to receive our next speaker. They are from an organization called La Cocina, and they are a culinary art program. And they will talk to you about the wonderful services that they offer that you can benefit from. I'm going to call Rocio and Kate.
My name is Kate Weschler, and I'm here with Rocio Caicedo, and we are here representing La Cocina VA in Arlington. La Cocina VA offers a job training program focusing on a population that is either low income, that doesn't currently have a job right now, or really would just like to improve their economic well-being. Our job program that we offer is focused on the culinary arts. So our main goal is to provide both men and women with the skills that they need to obtain jobs and develop careers in the food service industry. So this might mean working in a restaurant kitchen, a hotel kitchen, catering companies, senior living facilities, wherever there's a commercial kitchen. Or also we have worked with people that are interested in starting their own businesses so that they obtain the certifications necessary to be as professional and prepared as possible. Our job training program, the first component is the culinary arts. So we learn the fundamental, the basics of culinary techniques. So how to hold a knife, what are certain ingredients, what are different ways that we can prepare and serve food. That's our culinary arts section. We really stress that it's not a culinary school, but rather a job training program, because we all see food and see it as a very creative and beneficial trade, but the culinary skills that you will obtain at La Cocina VA are to put them into a place of work, okay? Put them to use in a professional setting. Another aspect of our job training program is Serve Safe certification, which is 23 hours of food management, food and health safety. So knowing at what temperatures we have to cook meat to, or how to store different ingredients, how to organize a refrigerator and prevent bacteria, and prevent people from getting sick. This is important because, like I said, the careers and jobs that we'll have afterwards are in kitchens where we are interacting with customers, and we don't want them to get sick. Okay? The third aspect of our job training program, we have two different schedules. We have an evening class that we are in the works of finding a start date. And then our morning class is a bilingual class. So in that class, we offer vocational English skills in terms of, how to read a recipe, names for different ingredients, and that one is focused on a Spanish-speaking population. So the morning class includes the vocational English component, whereas the evening class is taught solely in English. The morning class is, Okay, and then the evening class is to anybody that has a proficient level of English. The last component in our job training program is the class that I get to teach, and it's called Job Readiness. So they're all of the kind of softer skills that we need to be successful employees in a place of work. How do we work in a team? What is effective communication? How do we resolve and manage conflicts with people that maybe we don't get along with? How do I prepare for an interview? How do I create my resume? All of that goes into our job readiness component, and that's also part of the training. Okay, so the two different structures of the class vary in a couple of weeks, because the evening class are shorter periods of time over a longer period of time. But at the end of all of the classes that you receive, part of our program also includes an internship, a paid internship, where you, after going through all of our culinary classes, all of the ServSafe classes, the English if it applies, and the job readiness, we place you in a working kitchen where you're able to earn some income and practice the skills that you've learned through our program. And then ideally, at the end of the 4-week internship, you could obtain a full-time job in that place of work. If you don't, for whatever reason, obtain a job, either because maybe you think that there's something else out there, or maybe the employer wanted you to have your skills a little bit more refined, we also offer the service of helping you to obtain jobs elsewhere. So we facilitate the internship opportunity, and then if need be, we continue offering employment services by connecting you to our employer partners in the region. Okay. So as I mentioned, we are located in Arlington. That's where all of our classes are taught, and then the internship would be somewhere within the DC, Virginia, Maryland area, depending on where you're coming from. Our classes are fully scholarshiped, but we do expect the full commitment of the students. It is a Monday through Friday class, and it requires studying. It requires attending all of the classes, doing all of the homework. It is a school, right? It's a job training program. So we do require a lot of commitment on behalf of our participants. Our program is certified by the Northern Virginia Community College in Workforce Development. So upon completing the internship, students receive that certificate as well as the ServSafe certificate. Another interesting aspect of our program where students are able to practice their skills that they're learning in the school is we have a food assistance program. So starting on week 6, more or less, of the program, students prepare food and can practice their skills, and those meals that we prepare go to families that live in low-income housing communities, and so the community receives the food that we prepare. So it's nice because the students get to practice, their skills, and they get to work with the ingredients. And then the community receives the benefit of a healthy, hot meal at the end of the day. Are there any questions? No. So the question is if we have like a specific style of cooking that we do, whether it be from Peru or Morocco or whatever. No. We train students to just read recipes, right? To identify and know what the different ingredients are. And then once you understand the basics of the difference between frying something or grilling something, then you can follow a recipe, and it doesn't matter what country that recipe has come from. So again, we are training people not so that they're experts in Mexican or French cuisine, but rather so that they can have all the basic skills, knowing how to chop an onion or identifying garlic versus ginger and how it affects a recipe, to then bring those skills anywhere, to whatever kind of cuisine. Okay? Sure. The Spanish, the one in the morning is 13 weeks. Mm-hmm. And the evening is 17 as programmed now. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So here it's on as 15, and then it also includes the 4 weeks of internship.
So the evening one is 15 weeks?
Yes, as we have it scheduled here. It's 15, and then it would be a 4 additional for the internship. Sure. So I'll let Rocio talk a little bit more about the recruitment logistics, but we are starting a bilingual, the Spanish course in the morning on May 8th, and this program, the English speaking program, would be scheduled to start around May or June. But we want to, it's a new program for us that we've done just once before, so we want to make sure that we have a lot of interest before putting a fixed start date. Yes. So there's some questions about the language, and we've thought about doing possibly an interpreter. However, it would take, we would have that much less time to address topics that we do need to address, and then also because all of our study materials currently are in English or Spanish, and third, because we'd like to have the English for the workforce. Sure. So some of the questions are, did you hear the schedule ones? The ones about the schedule, we're clear about those? And then what requirements are needed for paperwork, and we do require like a residency or a work permit because we're putting these clients in contact with employers that have that requirement themselves.
But if you have already your own business and you want to do catering, there's something we can talk about.
Right. So if you do have the interest, or you already have your own catering business, or you want to make products or something like that, opening your own business requires a different kind of documentation. So so we are kind of willing to see people on a case-by-case basis depending on their interests and career goals. It cost us over $90,000 to put on one program.
So we have 9 slots, and if we have the 9 persons like ready to start, we will start. So that's why we don't have yet a beginning date. We don't have a beginning date because of that, because we need 9 to have these 9 people first. So if you are interested, if you have a cousin, a sister, a daughter that speaks English, that can follow the program, that is committed to learn and to train herself or himself, is open for men and women, so they can get a better job in a kitchen. Come to us. And as Kate said, we have to see case by case, because we need to know you. We need to know your goals and what you want to do after because this is like we were explaining, it's a program where is free for you, but it has a cost for us, and we need really people committed to the program going from the beginning to the end. So if you want to work in a kitchen after, or if you want to start your own business, or you have already a business that you want to improve your skills, well, come and see us. And about the hours, so the hours for now, like what we are the flyer, are on Mondays from 9 a.m. to 12, 3 Mondays. And then it's Tuesdays to Fridays from 3:30 to 9. So that's why we call it a 9 program. But we need first to have the people so we can adjust all these, because knowing you, we can know what are your expectations too and your availability. And we can see through that. And normally Mondays is just 3 Mondays, but I have to check that. And what else? Yes, it's because the person who gives the classes for the ServSafe can just in the mornings. So, yeah. And it's a very valuable certification, the ServSafe. Is very demanded by restaurants and catering services, and if you have your own business, it's also very a plus. So that's.
So we just do the ServSafe. We don't do any of the licensing for if you want to start your own business, but we do have resources and work with people that do work with the licensing. But we offer the training to people that do already have their own business, so that when you go to get licensed, you're already, in terms of techniques and safety, you're already covered on that, with that information. But the licensing we don't do ourselves, and that also depends on which county you're in, which state you're in, what kind of food you're preparing, and all of those resources in terms of helping you get through those legalization processes we have contact with, but we like for people to first go through the program and then guide them in that direction. No, they're not accredited. I would have to double check on that, but I don't, they're not. It's a certification. Though we do also have connections with NOVA, and so if you are interested in pursuing either studying more English or a different career path at NOVA, then we also facilitate that growth as well. Well, no, either depending on the career path. If you do want to study more English, we have ways to get you there, or if you would like to take other classes in psychology or whatever at NOVA, we also have connections to help you get those hours. That's the Spanish class. That's for taught in Spanish. So the Spanish class is in the morning, and then English class is in the night, the afternoon time. No, we don't have a fixed. So the question was, is there a fixed like income cutoff as to how we're going to accept people? We'll have to take it on a case-by-case basis. So if you are interested, I talk to Rocio and get that information. Who here does like to cook? Nobody. Who here likes to cook? Okay. So the food is universal, right? We all eat it. We all eat very different things. But what we train for is really creating a career out of food. So everybody can love to cook, everybody can love to eat, but this program is unique in the sense that we're training you to move into careers through food in kitchens or through your own businesses. So it is a challenging program. We understand that it's not for everybody, but maybe you know somebody that is interested to get into this business, and we'll be here for a few more minutes if you have any specific questions. Algo más? Okay, but thank you very much for your time and your questions and your interests, and we look forward to seeing some of you. Okay? Thank you. Oh. Cost? No. The program that we do is 23 hours, and it has to be done by a proctor. There's an exam involved. The exam, I believe, I would have to double check on the prices, but it...
18, just the exam is $18.
Dollars?
Yes, just
To take the exam is...
I might be wrong, but I think it's $80.
80.
80.
Ah, okay.
I'm sorry, that's my English.
Yeah. But we could double check on that. Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Just the exam, not the training hours.
This class? ServSafe, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that you have to be in a proctor setting, but at this point we don't facilitate that. Our class is all inclusive. It's part of our program.
Just a last thing. So somebody asked me, oh my God, I have to read it. Eligibility. Unemployed or underemployed. Underemployed, it means you are not earning enough. That's it. And able to stand for minimum 6 hours and lift up to 50 pounds, because the shifts at restaurants are more 8 hours or more. But if you are already employed part-time, but you want to do the training, you're welcome if you can fit your hours to the training.
So thank you very much, La Cocina, for your time. Thank you. I know that some of you asked about receiving the food handlers certification ServSafe program. As we mentioned, I know of people in the community that have paid up to $140 just to receive that certification, to be able, the ServSafe certification. Now, this is a wonderful program. If you speak English and you are interested in taking their classes, it's going to polish your skills on food, the culinary arts. They will prepare you far more than just the food program. They're preparing you for job readiness. Two, I know the lady in the back asked if they would help with getting someone started with a license to operate their own maybe catering business. Perhaps not them, but that's why we have Empower Women International. They can help you, guide you through the steps on how to start your own business, connect you with the places that you need to go to get your license. That's two. Three, there is also the Small Business Development Office. They are a nonprofit organization that helps you from A through Z, how to start the basics of starting your own business. And it is a free program. They are located in Annandale at the Social Services Building. They're open from Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. You can go there and get help on how to start your own business. So I know several of you had asked Tahani and I, well, can you guys offer the food certification classes? At the moment, we are unable to do that. We are still trying to finish the CPR classes. We're looking to host that program in Arabic and English sometime in the next 2 months. So this is your opportunity to take advantage of this great program, the Culinary Arts program through La Cocina. If not you, maybe you have a neighbor, you have a friend, you have a relative that can benefit from their program. All they need are 9 people that are willing and committed to taking their classes. So please pass the information along. Okay? Thank you so much for being here today.